guys, Jay here. Welcome to Miles Memories Weekly, episode 279. Miles Memory is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 activities a week. Oh, could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop showed off an orc, and we got our very first Minotaurum Field Manual for 11th edition. A lot of really big changes. Almost as many changes as the changes that you can make to your miniatures with the amazing hobby products available from EonsOfBattle.com. Over there, we're all restocked on our excellent hobby goodies: Gamer Grass Tufts, Great Head Studio Bits for your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, basing cork, ultra thin and ultra thick super glue, and we got terrain. This is the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack we've ever made or the brand new one. This July, we have created the Bocage Battlefield Terrain, a series of pieces perfect for putting together a historic landscape for games of Conflict 47, Bolt Action, or any war zone with a labyrinth of overgrown hedgerows. These pieces will funnel your infantry into tight firefights while hiding the mysterious shack. Maybe it's just a utility building, or maybe it's an improvised encampment, hiding some flesh-eating zombies kept on ice for the right moment to unleash a devastating outbreak. This set was designed by us and is available at EonsOfBattle.com. Games Workshop is still giving us the aftershocks of Armageddon, and we got another new orc in Nazdreg. I didn't even recognize this guy as the guy from Space Marine. The character in Space Marine, the original video game, was much leaner than this guy, but he's a big, chunky, funky orc, and he is wearing mega armor. Now, I really hope that we get new mega armor orcs, because I like Terminators. I like big, chunky guys. The current mega knobs are very like orc boys wearing children's cardboard armor. They look a little not elegant, not interesting. And Games Workshop has shown over and over that now they're really good at doing orc exosuits. I mean, new Gazgul looks incredible, and the big mech with shock attack gun looks also really good. Everything has super just outstripped the old Mega Knobs from like 2017. It's also just kind of an awkward kit because it comes with 3 miniatures, but often you'll want to turn one of those into a big mech, and so then you're left with 2, and I think they can be taken in squads of like 2, 4, or 2, 3, 4, and 6. Like they can come in weird numbers. It's just kind of an awkward unit. I think they should just kind of scrap them, start again so that we get some mega knobs that look really good. And probably some other weapon options. Previously, they were kind of meant to almost parody Terminators, and so they could all take like a combi weapon or a Shuda, and then a power fist, but then they can also take the twin buzzsaws, which are arguably a decent weapon, but it's not enough attacks to really do any damage to vehicles. And you're so painfully slow as orcs in mega armor that you're not probably gonna be catching a lot of vehicles off guard. And so I think they could definitely use some help in the actual weapon options. Although if this guy can lead them, that would be incredible. Although I could see this guy being pretty solid on his own. He has Deep Strike because he's a fake Terminator, and so he gets to Deep Strike anywhere on the battlefield. He would be an excellent candidate for Rapid Ingress, and he gets kind of an absurd number of attacks. His Moon Chua, his Mega Power Claws, 5 attacks, strength 12, AP-2, damage 3, and then he gets extra attacks, 6 orc punches with cleave 1. Like, that seems pretty wild. He gets like 13 attacks on the Wog turn, which you gotta have your big characters actually land on the Wog turn. Overall, he seems like a pretty solid guy. His ranged weapons have ignores cover, so he will be hitting on 5s and 6s, not just 6s like most of the orc range. Like, he's a pretty intense guy, and he's got some weird abilities. He's got intimidating motivation. Once per battle round per army. Does that matter? Because he's a named character, so you can't take multiples of him. And I don't think you can get intimidating motivation from any other source, but he can unbattle shock something. It's pretty solid. Just having that on tap is really good, so you don't have to spend the CP to do the reroll on it. Or you can make a unit riled up. And I think riled up only matters for him and his unit, because he has an ability where if an enemy unit moves within 8 inches of him, then his unit can make a d6, run away, or just move wherever he wants. And if his unit is riled up, then they can just make a flat 5-inch normal move, which could mean essentially getting out of charge distance, or it could mean like closing the gap and plugging up a hole on the battlefield. It does seem like a really interesting ability, but it's interesting that you have to prime it by making your unit riled up so that they can fully take advantage of their move. I actually think that's kind of a cool game design thing. I almost wish that we got to see that more places, where you almost had to make a decision to activate your ability so that you have it for later, as opposed to every unit just having like a whole bunch of rules tacked onto one another, and they're just always available. I actually think that's kind of an interesting like design space. This guy is pretty neat. Orcs and Space Marine codexes are coming real quick, so everything is a little bit up in the air. I saw in the new Minotaur Field Manual that like Vanguard veterans went a little bit, Vanguard veterans with jump packs went up a little bit in points, but like their whole data sheet, it just got rewritten with the Armageddon miniatures, and then it's gonna get rewritten again probably when the new Codex comes out. So it's a little nebulous, but I am really interested to see where orcs land, because it seems like just 11th edition rules, the core rules worked out really good for the orcs. And then Games Workshop kind of swatted them with the Nerf bat, but then their codex is going to come out and it's probably going to be super busted because it's the first codex of a new edition. So it'll be interesting to see where all of this stuff lands. I have been super busy lately, and so I haven't gotten a chance to super peruse the new Minotaur Field Manual, but I did take a glance at the Black Templars because I needed to know. And it seems like Black Templar fared pretty well in the Minotaur Field Manual. We're always struggling a little bit because we're like the smallest subset of Space Marines that are considered a full-on supplement to the Space Marine Codex. But all of our boys went down. Grimaldus, Helbrecht, Emperor's Champion, all dropped by 10 points. Love to see it. Like Helbrecht and Emperor's Champion are an auto-include, and Helbrecht and Grimaldus at 100 points is probably well worth it. He grants full rerolls, and you can select +1 armor penetration for his weapon and the weapons of the units that he's leading. Chainswords with AP -2 or power swords with AP -3 is pretty intensely solid. So he's probably, I've taken Grimaldus in games, but I've actually never finished painting the 3 little servitors that he comes with. So number 1, I'll have to find them. And number 2, I'll have to actually finish painting those guys so I can take them in some games. There's also some other weirdness with the Space Marines, or with the Black Templar specifically. Crusade Ancient went down another 5 points, so he is only 40 points, which is hilariously cheap. Still probably not worth it. He's the Black Templar's specific banner holder Space Marine, and he's better than the generic Space Marine one because he can carry a power sword, and that is a mastercrafted power sword, so it's AP -2 damage too. He's fine. Really, the reason that he's bad is that he doesn't do anything for the squad he's leading other than provide 1 extra power sword, which is not really something that it's the opportunity cost where it really falls apart, because attaching a chaplain or Emperor's Champion or Helbrecht or a Marshal or a Castellan or just a regular captain or a regular lieutenant are all much better options to make the unit much more lethal than just this one guy. And I believe he can't be taken on his own because I think he has that new 11th edition keyword where he gets to be extra cheap, but he has to be a part of his squad. You can't take him on his lonesome, because if I could just have a 40-point guy, I would just take 3 and boom, they can stand on objectives or they can stand in places on the battlefield, and it doesn't matter if they die. That would be super good, but I think currently he cannot. Also, similar boat, the Execrator. The Execrator is the Black Templar's version of a chaplain, and he's once again not that good. He does get a good number of close combat attacks, and he gives the unit he's attached to advance and charge. Space Marines have a boatload of access to advance and charge, so it's not really necessary to buy this guy for squads. And unlike all of those other characters that I just mentioned, he doesn't really grant any buffs and bonuses to the squad he's leading to make them more lethal. So once again, not really an include. I think he dropped from 65 points down to 60. So, no, he's 50. He's 50 points, and I still don't want to take him. Holy cow. That is very cheap. Also, another problem with both the banner bearer and the Castellan, or the execrator, they can only attach to Crusader Squad and Sword Bros. And both of those guys are YOLO combat units that are a little pricey. And when you're getting into kind of pricey units, you need them to do the business. And the business is not gonna get done by a chaplain. It's gonna get done by a really cool combat character like Helbrecht, like Grimaldus, like Emperor's Champion, like Marshall, like Castellan, like just generic captain. Like all of those guys will take a unit from good to great. This guy will take a unit from good to free advance and charge. And it's just not good enough. Repulsor Executioner went up by 20 points, 10 points base, and now we have to pay for the Las Talon. A little much, a little expensive. It makes a lot of sense because it's like the best unit in the game. Unfortunately, it's probably the best Black Templars unit, but I'm holding out because I don't own them and I don't really want to paint them because they're giant bricks. And so I'm just kind of waiting out the era of Black Templars loving Repulsor Executioners. I'm kind of holding out hope for just regular generic Black Templars to get better so that I'm not leaning so heavily on a Repulsor Executioner. But speaking of vehicles with guns, classic Rhinos went down to 65 points, which is almost free for what it is. Rhinos are fairly tanky. They're a really interesting unit. They're not going anywhere from 40k because they're used by the Chaos Space Marines and the Adeptus Sororitas, and I guess technically the Agents of the Imperium, but who cares? Like, they're a really, really solid unit. Not so much for vanilla Space Marines. There's something to a tactical squad, but they're a little awkward to use because you have to purchase them in 10 and then split them at the start of the game. And so you get one squad that's decent with a couple special weapons and a power sword on the character, but then you just got 5 goons who you don't really have, you can't expect them to be able to do anything in game. Then there's also the Devastator squad, which is kind of an interesting unit. It can take a boatload of any special weapon that the Space Marines have access to, but they only hit on 4s. They do have heavy, and heavy is not as cumbersome as it used to be. So you can potentially be hitting on 3s, but not if you're taking advantage of a transport, because you hop out of a transport that counts as a normal move, which is further than 3 inches, so you don't get to take advantage of the heavy keyword. There might be something to the gravity guns. I know I have a Ziploc baggie of those guys somewhere, so there could be something to that. But 65-point Rhino, it's a dedicated transport, so I do believe you have to start something embarked within it, and they're not allowed to transport anything with the Tacticus keyword, which is all of Primaris and Aggressors and everything. So you're literally stuck with those 2 units. I don't know, it's a little tricky, but the other thing that really caught my eye is Razorbacks, went, I believe, from 95 points to 85 points, which, that's a good old-fashioned Razorback. The Razorbacks are in a similar boat as the Devastator squad. They can take a heavy bolter or a twin las cannon, and there's something to that. That's not a bad gun. They have a very good ability where if they shoot something, the thing that hops out of the Razorback, because it has a transport capacity of 6 miniatures, they get +1 to wound against the thing that the Razorback shot, which is kind of amazing. That's a really good ability, and it pairs nicely with any of the guns available to a Devastator squad. It can just make heavy bolters that much better. It can really make sure that your 4 las cannon shots really punch through. If they can take multi-meltas, that might be the move. I know the old Devastator kit came with multi-meltas, but I don't remember if it's still in their data sheet. Again, the gravity guns, there's a little something there because you're hitting on 4s, so your 12 shots goes down to 6. But then your anti-infantry 2-up, so 2-up with +1. No, I guess that doesn't really matter. I don't know, there's the Razorback. I have all the parts. Probably in another Ziploc baggie that is somewhere. I could have 2 Razorbacks. Does feel really juicy, and for such a cheap points cost, I don't know, there could be something to plan with some of the old school Space Marines. I'm pretty sure they can still only transport the old stuff. If you can believe it, I haven't actually purchased a copy of the latest Space Marine Codex, and I've acquired the rules from other places, so that may not be 100% official that they cannot transport tactical Marines, or they cannot transport Mark 10 Marines, but I'm pretty sure that's still the rule. I don't know, there's something spicy about the Razorback. I've been really racking my brain, trying out different army lists and trying out different things for the Black Templar to try to get them to work. I think the fundamental issue is Black Templar is built around 2 units, the Crusader Squad and the Sword Brethren Squad, and they're both YOLO melee Space Marine units without any save shenanigans whatsoever. We don't even have access to Oath the Moment. And so it's really hard, like Space Wolves, they've got Bjorn the Fell-Handed, who's a Dreadnought who gives command points and he's -1 to be wounded. Then you got Logan Grimnar, who can make reserves come in 1 turn sooner than they would normally be allowed to. Like, most armies have access to characters and units that can interact with the game in more ways than just the close combat phase. But the Black Templar don't. And so a typical Black Templar army is a few big murder squads that are going to try to YOLO just crunch the enemy army, and then just a whole bunch of these little tools to actually play the game with. One of my favorite tools, the Suppressor Squad. It came in the old Vanguard box for Space Marines. These little regular Tacticus Squad guys who have jump packs and autocannons, accelerator autocannons. They went up. They were 70 points, which I felt like was perfect. They were just worth it at 70 points. They got a 10-point bump. Why did they get it? They're not Repulsor Executioners. They're just normal kind of bad Space Marine units, but with movement 12 and some autocannons that can occasionally spike up. There was a little something to them. I feel like Games Workshop really had them dialed in, but they only ever came out in that one set. They're a monopose kit. They're hard to purchase. I had to buy them from scalpers on eBay. Like, maybe Games Workshop is planning on sending them to Legends. I don't know, but it does seem like a really weird choice because Games Workshop was pretty selective with Space Marines. There really wasn't that many ups and downs. And so it's interesting that Games Workshop was like, oh yeah, these guys that no one plays, let's knock those guys up quite a bit in points and make them virtually unusable, which sucks. I take 2 of those squads of those guys in my army and they always score me like actions and secondaries. Like, they're really, really good for just scooting around the board. I leave 1 in strategic reserve to drop down using Deep Strike and then score me cards. Really hard to do with Black Templars because my Sword Brothers and Crusader squads cannot be messing around doing actions, and they're really not tough enough to stand on points. So it's I don't know. Games Workshop keeps making my army just a little bit harder to play every single balanced data slate. Although 100-point Grimaldus, that's pretty good. It's hard to complain too much about that. And you know what else is hard to complain about? The Dragonfall Charity Gaming Festival. It's a really fun time. It is the first weekend of October, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th at the beautiful Grand Geneva Resort in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. I'm gonna be there. It's a really fun time. They've got a whole bunch of tournaments going on. I'm hoping to participate in the 40K Grand Tournament, the GT, hopefully with my Black Templars, and hopefully I'll be able to perform pretty darn well. I've been cranking out some games, not as many lately as I would like, but I'm gonna be getting back into the 40K grind set hard, and I'm gonna make Black Templar work. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure out a way. Maybe I'm bringing Razorbacks, maybe I'll be getting nuts with it, but it is a really, really fun time. They also have painting seminars, and they have a painting competition that is really fun. I entered a bunch of stuff the year that I went, and I actually managed to take home a couple of little things. I also managed to lose one of my competition pieces, my Gazgul Thraka. If you're driving up North Wisconsin way and you think you see a Gazgul Thraka on the side of the road, you do, it's mine. I left it on the top of my car and it fell off. But yeah, it's a really, really fun time. The Dragonfall Charity Gaming Festival. And if you think you can make it, we are giving away some day passes. If you leave a comment on this video and then check the description and fill out a form, you can be entered to win. If you think you can go, this is a great way to get your day pass for free. The new Minotaurum Field Manual is a spicy little document. I can't wait to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Can't wait to look at the Imperial Guard so I can make fun of Sean. Although Imperial Guard I think have been struggling lately, and so they probably got a lot of points decreases. Although I think the Rogaldorn Battle Tank, the giant monstrosity, I think that can go up any number of points. Make it 400 points. Let's not bring so many Rogaldorn battle tanks to Warhammer 40,000. I'll leave the Repulsor Executioners at home if that means that I don't have to deal with any Rogaldorns. They're not my jam. Thanks for watching.